culture. Over all the years, through working at Virgin, and then after that I went into the corporations. I was the first woman managing director at Polygram, big multinational company. And I found that I thought that Virgin was still a small company, and I thought, well, if I can achieve all this at Virgin, and I'd signed all sorts of hit artists like Sting and Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark and Tom Petty, and I thought, if I can achieve all of this, what could I do with the budgets in a corporation? And of course, they took me on because of my track record and gave me a big budget. Well, I found I could actually do very little, and that's what started me thinking about management styles. Not all corporations are like that one, and it was a long time ago, so it may have changed. But I found it very hard to achieve anything because people all seemed to be working against each other. And I found for the first time in my life, instead of really wanting to get to the office on a Monday morning and wanting to work all evening and things like that, for the first time I was wanting to come in late, I wanted to go out for lunch, I wanted to go home early. It's horrible. Has anyone been in that situation at a job ever? It's horrible, isn't it? Horrible situation to be in, and probably some of you are in it right now, I'm sure, but sometimes we just have to grit our teeth and bear it. So I found, going back over all of this, I found there are three things that make up a coaching culture. One is giving people responsibility. The more responsibility you give people, the harder they will work and the more care they will take. Because when you think about it, what is the point of being really painstaking about your work and really innovative and creative if your manager is going to come along and say, change that, do this, do it this way. That's wrong, or you made a mistake there. We didn't have anybody like that at Virgin because nobody knew anything. My first job that I was given was run the music publishing company. I didn't know what a music publishing company did, but fortunately neither did Richard. So I had to go out and find out what it did and find out how to make it successful and all the rest of it. And my first signing was Sting, so it worked, that approach, it worked. But because I knew that no one was checking up on me, and the buck stopped with me, I made so sure that I knew everything there was to know. I made so sure that I got things right. Of course, things did go wrong, and I'll come on to that. And I think it's in this way, if you can trust people, just allow them to trial and error, experimentation, making mistakes, allow them to, like a child learning to walk, allow them to find their own pathway and find their own way of doing it. It builds their confidence, it builds self-belief. What's the other way of building self-belief in people? What's the other way of building up people's confidence? Say you're managing them, or another way. Everyone stop listening, have I been talking for too long? Praising them, yes. I think it's a two-sided thing, confidence. You can do it by praising people, and I still have companies, so many companies today saying we only hear about it when things go wrong. So there's praising people, and there's allowing people to do things their own way and make mistakes so they can build their confidence from within. Just like a child learning to walk. Has anyone ever told their child when it was taking its first wobbly steps and falling over, when it fell over, did you say, now the reason you fell over was because you did this, and what I want you to do next time is do it? Did anybody say that? Anybody try that approach? You praise the child to the skies, don't you? You see the worst walk you've ever seen. It falls over and you say, they were so clever, it's brilliant. For some reason, around the age of 5, that all stops and we start criticising people. It's bizarre, isn't it? So the third thing is blame-free. And at Virgin, it was as if Richard was standing at the beginning of a maze, as if we all were. And every time we went up a wrong alley, which we did all the time because we didn't know anything, the attitude was, great, now we've been up that alley and we know that's the wrong way, we're that much closer to getting through the maze to the target. And of course the target was world domination, although we didn't know that in those days. And that's how he's got there, really. So those are the three things, and if any one of those is missing, then the coaching culture will fall. You can't give people responsibility if you're going to tell them off when it goes wrong. Who's their own worst critic in this room? Can anyone make you feel worse than you feel yourself when you make a mistake? And most of the times that we make mistakes, most people know they've made a mistake. They know how they should have done it. They're actually quite keen to go on and have another go and do it again and get it right this time. They don't actually need anybody to tell them, you've done it wrong and this is, they think, yeah, I know that, just let me get on with it. They'll only feel worse, and that's demotivating, so they'll have less energy to deal with it. And Ken Blanchard came up with this lovely phrase about 30 years ago, catch people doing something right. And I find it generally is more effective if somebody is making mistakes and they know. Sometimes if they don't know, of course you've got to tell them. Of course you've got to correct them when they don't know the right way, when they don't know they're doing it wrong. But if they know, and if they're keen and if they're enthusiastic, it'll probably actually improve their performance if you tell them about what they're doing right rather than concentrate on the thing that they were doing wrong. And I find that in that atmosphere, when people are given recognition and praise, then when you do have to give any learning feedback or negative feedback or whatever you like to call it, it will come across as a helping hand. It won't come across as negative feedback at all. And I always say in a coaching culture, there is no such thing as negative feedback, because whenever anybody says to you, I think it would be better if you did it like this, you think, oh, thank you, there's something else, wise words to add to my little thing that I'm building here. So it changes the whole attitude. Companies sometimes may say, well, okay, if everybody has a coach and they all learn coaching skills, obviously everyone's going to be happier. And they're coming back from all these experiences and saying, oh, we feel great, it's really motivating, we feel marvelous. But the finance director might say, but is it actually making us any more money? Well, of course, if people are really good at what they do, and if they're really excellent at work, it is going to make the company more money. It is going to be more successful.